I've been tracking this generation for a long time. I remember writing an essay for Harper's Bazaar magazine around the turn of the millennium about a group of young, very smart, and some said very entitled advisors who are orbiting around Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and Peter Mandelson. These people were the Miliband brothers, Ed Balls, James Purnell, Andy Burnham was one of them, Yvette Cooper, and the Scottish politician Douglas Alexander. And they were seen as very, very smart, very, very ambitious. The expectation was that they would be given fast seats and fast track to the top of the Labour Party. All of that did come to pass.
Let's bring in Jason Cowley, columnist at the Sunday Times, for thoughts on the Labour Party. But I wonder if we might start with Farage this morning, Jason. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
It's a big story, this. It's a big investigation, and what we're getting at this morning, if I could just ask for a reflection from you on this, is Nigel Farage Teflon to these sorts of things? He tries to channel Donald Trump in his approach, in his responses to stories such as this, Nigel Farage secretly funded by convicted criminal, and that may wash with his core support, but I wonder actually what it does to his electoral appeal more broadly.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary investigation, utterly fascinating, and I thought brilliantly presented by the Sunday Times, both as a written investigation, a little video film, and as a podcast. So that's great use of multimedia. Farage is Teflon, but he does have a ceiling. What is it? About 25%. I mean, he's viscerally loathed in the way that Starmer was loathed in the country, but also he has a very dedicated, hardcore popular support, somewhere between 20 and 25%. But is that enough to build a majority politics? I'm not sure.
I think it's fascinating. And this morning, as we've been on air, he's been referred to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner over this latest round of revelations as well. Farage,
and he's been referred to the gift as well, hasn't he?
Yes.
The $5 million gift before this investigation.
Exactly. So it piles on. That's the thing. Exactly that. Farage, of course, says that he's done no wrong in all of this. We'll see how.
But Calum, if he's a Prime Minister in waiting, he's now facing the scrutiny that all serious party leaders and politicians should face from the media.
And that's interesting because a lot of our listeners this morning have been texting in saying, nothing to see here, who cares where the money comes from, we'd rather our politicians were honest, and Farage sort of tells it like it is. And that's the other side of this, is like what is it you hope for and expect from your politicians and your political leaders, I guess.
I guess that's right, but also, we as journalists, we want to find out who's aspiring to lead the country. Who are they? Where does the money come from? What are their policies? What are their ideas? What are their principles?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. That one will develop throughout the day. Right, let's get on to the Labour Party as well, Jason, because we are, a couple of weeks away now from Prime Minister Burnham, probably, it's expected. That disclaimer makes me laugh every time. Andy Burnham will be the Prime Minister in a couple of weeks' time, and we're sort of grappling with how he will govern and who he will govern with. We're expecting David Miliband to break his silence in the days ahead. There's a lot of speculation that he might make a political comeback, maybe end up in the cabinet as well. One of the reflections is that a lot of the names being talked about, David Miliband, James Purnell as Chief of Staff, these are people, and even Andy Burnham himself, to be fair, these are people who've been around for a long time. They've definitely got experience in these sorts of roles, but is this a fresh start? Is there room for a younger generation in all of this?
Or is it Back to the Future? David Miliband's giving a Jonathan Sachs lecture this week, I think. I've been tracking this generation for a long time. I remember writing an essay for Harper's Bazaar magazine around the turn of the millennium about a group of young, very smart, and some said very entitled advisors who are orbiting around Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and Peter Mandelson. These people were the Miliband brothers, Ed Balls, James Purnell, Andy Burnham was one of them, Yvette Cooper, and the Scottish politician Douglas Alexander. And they were seen as very, very smart, very, very ambitious. The expectation was that they would be given fast seats and fast track to the top of the Labour Party. All of that did come to pass. They were ministers under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. And then they lost the election in 2010, and they lost control of the Labour Party to Jeremy Corbyn in 2015. And I thought at the time, and I wrote a New Statesman essay following up on my original essay called The Fall of the Golden Generation. So we had the rise of the Golden Generation, the fall of the Golden Generation, but what we may be seeing now is the return or the resurrection of the golden generation. They may indeed not only take over the party, but the country.
Yeah. And what does that represent, I suppose, Jason? Have we struggled in the meantime to develop a kind of political generation that can function at that level? Are we have we skipped a couple of layers here in terms of bringing on political talent?
I think it is extraordinary. I think it's partly a consequence of failure, isn't it? First, of the radical left takeover of the party, which ultimately Jeremy Corbyn led Labour to its worst defeat since 1935 at the 2019 general election, when Boris Johnson was kind of swept all before him and took the so-called Red Wall in those Midlands and North seats once held by Labour MPs. And then it's the failure of the Starmer project. I mean, Starmer was never part of this golden generation. He was a lawyer, and he came late to politics, and he came from outside politics. And as it turned out, he was successful in taking over the Labour Party and preparing it to win a general election, but he proved to be a failure in government. And indeed, I thought it was very significant this week that his former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, gave his first interview for a long while, saying that actually they were poorly prepared for government. They had no plan to govern. And Calum, you and I know this because we've been talking about this theme for some time.
Yeah, indeed. So then I suppose we come to the question of when is tactically, strategically, when will it be helpful, constructive for Andy Burnham to confirm his sort of cabinet lineup, who he wants in these sorts of jobs? Are we going to have to wait until he actually is in number 10 for that, Jason, or would it be helpful for the public to understand more about his vision and direction by him outlining these key characters sooner rather than later?
I think as soon as possible, really, because I was away this week, but it's a really strange period at Westminster. There's this sense of waiting, there's this sense of not knowing, there's this sense of uncertainty. Everyone knows Keir Starmer's going. Everyone knows Andy Burnham's going to be the Prime Minister. He's giving there's the odd cryptic intervention. He took some questions on Reddit of all places this week, trying to outline a theory of government and what his philosophy of government might be. But it's a very peculiar, in military terms, it's kind of a phony war. We're waiting, but nothing's quite happening. The real action hasn't happened yet. And there's intense speculation at Westminster about who are going to be the senior people in his cabinet, and indeed who is going to be his Chancellor of the Exchequer, I think, which will be the most important appointment that he makes.
Yeah. In terms of some of the movement this weekend in the rumours and speculation, there has been a suggestion that Wes Streeting might be in line to be Foreign Secretary. What do you make of that?
Well, it gets him out of the country, doesn't it?
It's true.
And it means he'll be spending a lot of time on aeroplanes, travelling to summits and wherever. Certainly some kind of deal was done between Wes and Andy, because Wes never declared to make this into a proper leadership contest, when you may have had what Wes Streeting once demanded was a battle of ideas. Well, that battle of ideas hasn't happened. Some kind of behind-the-scenes deal was done. So I do expect Wes Streeting to have a very senior role in that cabinet. And he comes from a sort of different faction from Andy Burnham, a different part of the party, but nevertheless carries some support with him. So that's one possibility that I've been hearing as well. You mentioned David Miliband, a former Foreign Secretary. Could he be put in the House of Lords, as David Cameron was, and then return as Foreign Secretary? But how many Milibands can you have in those senior positions in the government? Does that mean if David Miliband becomes Foreign Secretary, does Ed Miliband then not become Chancellor? These are the kind of games that people are playing, the kind of questions that are being asked.
Yeah. Is there somebody, Jason, that you think will be essential to Project Burnham, that we should look out for being talked about, being appointed? You've been close to the Labour operation for for decades. Who do you think he would be foolish to miss out?
Well, he's a smart operator, Burnham, and he won't miss anyone out that he feels he needs to have close to him. I think we should watch Louise Hay, who was the former Transport Secretary under Starmer, and then she left the cabinet. But she's been very, very influential behind the scenes. She's head of the so-called Tribune group of MPs, comes from the soft left of the party, but is extremely pragmatic. I had lunch with her in the Makerfield constituency a few weeks ago, and I found what she was saying very interesting. And she's very, very close to Burnham, has been organising his team, very interested in policy. She will be absolutely fundamental, I think, to the Burnham project.
Very interesting.
She's another Northern MP.
Yes.
Her constituencies in Yorkshire.
Absolutely. Fair point. Well made. Jason, great to speak to you this morning. Thanks very much.
All good.
Cheers now. That's Jason Cowley, Sunday Times columnist. You can read his writing by searching his name on the Sunday Times website or app.